Hey guys, welcome to episode number 81 of the Big Time Strength Podcast. I appreciate you tuning in today. Today we are talking to Coach Aaron Jung. He is the head strength and conditioning coach at Morningside College. And Coach had been on my list to have on the show for a while now. I've heard some really good things about him, and he's been mentioned on this podcast itself a couple times. As a strength coach who's doing big things and deserves a shout out and a listen to. So after talking today, I loved our conversation. I think you'll enjoy it as well. I really appreciate it because Coach and I, on a personal level here, we have very similar backgrounds or steps into the position that we're currently in. So it was really cool for me to just listen to someone else who had a similar path, how he attacked it, the ways that he's continuing to grow and getting better. So I think you'll really enjoy today. Before we get to the episode, let's get to our two awesome sponsors, TeamBuildr. They are the leading software for high schools and colleges by providing the ability to write programs online, generate over 13 reports, and even train athletes remotely for side income. If you sign up with code BIGTIME, you will receive a free APRE programming template, which works automatically within TeamBuildr. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day. Automate your programming without outsourcing your programming with TeamBuildr. Okay, confession time real quick on TeamBuildr is we use TeamBuildr with 99% of what we're doing. I experimented with football and went back to a card for multiple different reasons that I'm not going to get into right now with APRE here just for the 3 weeks. And I'll tell you that I'm going to go right back to TeamBuildr because I forgot how just simple and easy it makes it. So, yeah, we're going back to TeamBuildr. So I really appreciate Hewitt and his crew. They are a fantastic company. Please reach out to them if you're interested in making your life better. All right, Powerlift. They are the leading manufacturer and distributor of heavy-duty strength training equipment for collegiate and high school athletic performance centers around the world. They bring over 20 years of experience in the strength conditioning world. All products are manufactured in the state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Jefferson, Iowa. They're proud to support all coaches making it the big time where they're at. Heavy Iowa focus today with Powerlift and Coach Aaron Jung. Powerlift, man, they're great. Everybody knows Powerlift. Their equipment is second to none. Please reach out to Mike Richardson. His contact info is in the show notes if you're interested in hearing more about their products. All right, guys, let's get to today's episode. Coach Aaron Jung. Enjoy. Coach Jung, man, I'm really excited to have you on the Big Time Strength Podcast. Excuse me. You've been on my list for a while, and I've heard a lot of good things about what you're doing there at Morningside. So why don't you get us started and just give us a little background of where you've been through strength conditioning so far and what you're doing now.
Absolutely, man. Well, thanks for having me, man. I've been looking forward to this, honestly, because I listen to your guys' podcast and I make sure to try to hit it up at least, whenever there's a new episode or something that intrigues me, things like that. So I'm excited. I really am. Real quick, just about myself. I'm a young guy, young coach. So I haven't been at this too dang long, honestly. Kind of luck of the draw, coming to a school like Morningside College. I've been pretty lucky and pretty darn fortunate. A lot of these coaches, they've been here a long time, and unfortunately, this is year 5 for me. So I haven't been here too dang long. And so, with that being said, I'm actually really grateful that they've accepted me and helped me along the way too. Because when I first got here, I came from the University of Mary in Bismarck, North Dakota, and I did my master's up there for a couple of years. And so with that being said, this was my first full-time job right out of being a GA. So it was alarming because I was 25 years old at the time. And so I didn't know it from Adam still. I had my experience with Mike Silver. I go up there, and that's a whole another conversation in and of itself, and he'll probably chuckle when he hears that. But at the end of the day, I learned a lot in those few years, more probably in an accelerated fashion, because when I did my undergrad at Augustana University is now what it's called, but it was Augustana College at the time. I did my undergrad there, and I didn't do any internships, while I was in school. So I did like a kind of a peer type internship my summer going in my senior year. That summer going into my senior year, I did an internship kind of coaching my peers and, learning from the strength staff that was there at Augie at the time. And that's kind of when I fell in love with it. And that's kind of how I wanted to get into strength conditioning. And then I was fortunate enough, I had one of the assistants there vouch for me I applied for some jobs and I wasn't getting any luck, and he vouched for me for a job up at Mary. And somehow, some way, I went on the interview and he offered me, and I think some dominoes fell there. And then, did my 2 years there, and the experience I had there was, I can't even begin to describe the value that it had for me. And then I was fortunate enough, kind of that same assistant helped me out, getting a job here, because he was a head strength conditioning coach here. And so with that being said, it just kind of fell into place. I kind of, other coaches are probably going to hear this and be like, man, that seems like a non-traditional approach, because it just almost was like I did kind of like a summer internship, and then I got a GA, and then all of a sudden I came to Morningside College. And then it was just kind of like, it just kind of fell into place there. So that's kind of my, I guess, journey in going into strength and conditioning, and that's kind of how I got started. It was like May of 2015 is when I started here. And the funny part was, when I did start here, I wasn't technically employed through Morningside. So I was actually employed through a company called CNOS, and they outsourced a strength coach to Morningside College. I think Morningside probably gave them some sort of a fee or something like that. And then they covered my salary, and then lo and behold, that's kind of how it was that first year. And then the crazy part was, at the end of that year, I had two gentlemen that kind of were on the committee of hiring me and stuff like that and helped me get a job. They came into the weight room and said, well, we're actually going to cut your position. And so that kind of stunk. And then, so I was like job searching, and I was like, I didn't know what to do. And our AED, he went to war for me with the administration, and I had other coaches. I must have did something right that first year. And, I kind of got support from them, and they went to the AD and said, we need to keep him. And they actually made the position for me. And, I've been employed through Morningside for the last 4 years. So that's kind of how it all started. And that's kind of how I kind of got hooked up with this place. So I know that was long, but that's kind of how it all started for me.
Well, I appreciate your background, because it's very similar to mine. And I think we're both,
okay.
I'd echo the same comments, that very fortunate. We kind of both have, untraditional paths to that, head seat that most people don't get that opportunity right out of grad school. And I was lucky enough to get it as well. But I think there's some good lessons within what you just said there. And kind of towards the end, I remember during my internship at University of Missouri, something Pat Ivy would talk about is be so good that they have to create a position to keep you there. And I think that's something that you obviously did there that speaks a lot to what you're doing. So credit to you for that. But I also want to just get your thoughts, just a chance for you to brag about yourself. What do you think prepped you to take on that head role at 24 years old?
Like I said, I'm gonna bring up Mike a lot, and he's been on your guys' podcast. He's been on your podcast before, and him and I we still talk to this day, and he'll probably call me today, sometime. He'll hear the podcast, and instantly he'll probably call me or something like that. So what's funny is that we're very similar in a lot of ways. He's kind of that big brother-esque person for me, and I have a couple other mentors too that are very similar. I've been very fortunate enough to, and I almost take this kind of job as like a, how do I say it? Like an athlete would respond to a coach. I like being coached, and I did as an athlete. And sometimes I was stubborn. And if former coaches are hearing this, they're probably gonna laugh and say that. But at the same time, it's kind of made me who I was, and my upbringing and whatnot. I don't know what it was. It was just kind of something I'm kind of born to do. And,
Yeah.
my experience as a GA really helped me because it was just him and I at the time. And, we were kind of, we had all the teams. And so I was kind of, crunched with, X amount of teams that I had, and he had, the other half. And that was just the way it was. And you just, you there's times where him and I butted heads and we went at each other type of thing. And that's what made me what it was. And I had to coach a big room by myself. And, he wasn't there sometimes. He had to go pick up kids or something like that.
Right.
And so the responsibility was different. So, and I didn't know, science at the time. I mean, you would have been like, what? This guy doesn't know anything. And I didn't. I really didn't. I still don't know anything. So at the same time, it's kind of forced me to kind of learn by myself. There's a new age out there right now. Obviously, social media is huge. So by looking at things on social media, you can, at the drop of a hat, I mean, you can pick up a phone call now and you can call any strength coach that you want. Email is a huge thing. There's books galore out there, the internet. I mean, you name it, it's out there. So the research is out there. So if you want to be considered a good strength coach and you want to learn some things, there's definitely resources out there nowadays. So
yeah,
I think at the end of the day, that's just kind of what forced me, and I just made sure I forced myself to do those things as a young coach because I didn't have an option. Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how it was. I just made sure that it wasn't an option for myself, that, at some point in time I made a decision that I wanted to be a head strength coach. And if you want to be a head strength coach, you got to kind of operate things differently, and you got to kind of take charge with what you're doing in that setting. So.
Right. Well, again, credit to you for taking advantage of those opportunities. And Coach, maybe describe just a little bit about your guys' culture there at Morningside College. If I just observed your weight room for a day, what do you think we would see?
Well, I would hope that, we stress that time is valuable. We get a lot of kids that come through the room. Here at Morningside, I don't work with every single team. Not right now. I don't have the luxury to do it. Our weight room's probably right around, 1,800, maybe 2,000 square feet. So it's not overly huge by any means. We have 5 double-sided racks, some platforms attached to them. We have some power blocks, and then we have a full rack of dumbbells and things like that. And there's probably other coaches out there right now saying, man, that's more than I got. But at the time, it wasn't at that time. So I had to figure out a system to make sure that, time was valuable. And I didn't want workouts taking an hour and 15, 2 hours type of thing, because kids got to get to class. I mean, they stress academics here hugely. And I got my butt chewed, I think, last year because I recommended, I think, to a kid, I said, hey, go talk to one of your professors, I think the academic advisor. And I'm like, hey, go talk to him, see if there's another option. And in terms of, taking a class at a certain other time. And, oh, man, I heard you chuckle. And so you've probably been down this path before.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden I got the AD, he emailed me right away. He said, hey, we cannot tell, kids this. And I was like, I didn't even tell him to do that. And so all of a sudden, with those types of things, I mean, academics is very it's stressed here. So we have to find time to make sure that these kids are out on time and making sure that they get to class on time and things like that. So I would say it's very timely fashion. It's fast paced. It's going to be orderly. Everything's structured. You're going to be, I'm pretty, in terms of being a coach, I'm pretty loud. I make sure that things are done in an orderly fashion because we have to keep time. We have to keep you on point because we only have an hour, 45 minutes sometimes to get you in and out. And that's even depending on the year. So with that being said, time is valuable. I would say that communication is huge within our culture. I stress it all the time, whether, an athlete, there's something up that particular day, whether they're hurt or injured or something's not feeling well. We don't have the luxury of all the technology nowadays. So, some of the things that I've done with it is just open line of communication, holding kids accountable with that and making sure that, hey, you're communicating with me at every moment's notice, and trying to stress that as much as possible. And then, another thing is that leadership aspect. I think that's a huge thing within our culture, is that I stress it all the time, and I take our upperclassmen and I make sure that our upperclassmen are grabbing our freshman guys, or the ladies are grabbing the freshman girls and bringing them along, and making sure that, at the beginning of the year, sometimes it's kind of a pain in the butt and it's kind of a nuisance to them, but I make sure that they pair up with a freshman so that way they can kind of help them out and lead them through things. So that way I'm not sitting here going stir crazy and trying to coach, the seniors over here and then the freshmen over here doing 20 different things, because the room's not very big. So at the end of the day, if I can get them doing somewhat of the similar things and maybe tweak things here and there to kind of fit, that particular athlete, it makes the flow of the room so much better. And so we can pair up things, and we can get through things in a timely fashion, and it helps me coach. And I use them as kind of little mini coaches out there. You know what I mean? And you'd be surprised if they hear me say cue 100 billion times, they start blurting out that cue to those kids. And honestly, it helps. I mean, it really does. And so I always stress to even sometimes interns that I'm working with, I'm like, don't be afraid to, stress to our upperclassmen to help these younger kids out, because they will help you. They're kind of like my little catalyst to keeping this culture and keeping things moving forward with that. But again, that's kind of what you'd see. If you see a very, fast-paced type environment, I would hope technique is on point, because I don't allow anything less. I make sure that things are on point before we can load things up aggressively. So, and we take time and we try to teach it as much as possible. And things are moving pretty quick, I would say.
So you think maybe talking about, we all have hurdles and things we need to, kind of jump over to get the job done. Do you think your room is maybe your biggest limiting factor, or maybe it's something else? Maybe can you just expand on just maybe what some of your challenges are there and ways you've overcome those?
Absolutely. I wouldn't even say I like my room now.
Okay.
Now I've been here 5 years, it's starting to, I don't mind it now, I don't know any different.
Right.
I wouldn't know what it's like to coach in a room with like Clemson. Holy man. With all those dang racks. I mean, you'd have to get a microphone to make sure that the other person hears you on the other side of the room. Or at least now I can at least see some things. I wish we'd be able to get rid of our darn mirrors. But anyway, I mean, the mirrors kind of help me too. I can kind of see on the back half of the room. And with that being said, I can keep tabs on everything. I can coach technique, especially with a large group. If I have a group of 30 to 40 kids in there and I'm the only one in there, I can just, glance at it quick and I can kind of see things. And it does. It really does help. So, in a smaller room, sometimes it helps with environment too. It gets loud, music gets loud.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get really hoarse at times, and I have to turn the music down if I'm ready to chew butt or something like that. But at the same time, it provides a pretty decent atmosphere, and a lot of our athletes don't mind it. Like I said, would I love to have a bigger weight room? Sure. Absolutely. We'd all like to have nicer things and things like that, but I don't know. I'm not going to be too picky about it right now. It's what we got, and it's what I can control. But I would say probably the biggest challenge that I have to endure all the time is scheduling. Scheduling's tough here. It really is. And being in a smaller facility with a large number of teams, everybody's always fighting for the same times, and sometimes the times they conflict with practice, and everybody's practicing at the same time, right? And so getting kids in around those times is challenging. It really is. So I would say scheduling is tough. Really it is. And kind of some of those things, how I kind of overcome those, and I sit down with the coaches and we kind of we brainstorm ideas. And football, unfortunately, they have about 100 kids on roster. And so with a group like that, they have to kind of be my priority in terms of scheduling. So I kind of, wherever time of the year they're in, I'm like, all right, let's put them in kind of the middle of the day, so that way They're good for practice and things like that. Plus, they're my most groups. So if I can get them scheduled out, then now all those other times open up for me, and then I can kind of plug in all my other teams there. But, certain times of the year does change things, and we're always constantly changing. And some of the teams that I don't work with specifically, that I have some of the other sport coaches kind of train directly. They might not always like it, but sometimes they're stuck late in the day, late in the afternoon, stuff like that. And that's just the way it is. And we kind of, I communicate with them, and I kind of set the schedule how we need to, and we just go from there. But I would say definitely scheduling's kind of a pain in the butt some days for me.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like it's always just it never ends either. It's just ongoing. Like,
yep.
You got it set. Now they want to change, which is fine. I think being adaptable. I think being adaptable has got to be one of your top traits as a strength coach. But I'm glad someone else is in that boat too. That's good. How about fundraising, Coach? Do you guys do anything specifically or maybe unique to raise some money for your department?
Yeah. I've came up with, the old adage is selling T-shirts. Sometimes as simple as that, selling some T-shirts. We came up with the logo Mustang Power, and I was thinking in my head when I first got here, I typed something up on Microsoft Word and kind of changed up the font. There was a font in the back of our room. It kind of had like our logo's it's a Mustang, so it kind of has like a Western type look to it. And I was like, all right. So I tried that out, and then I did that for like a year, and I was like, this sucks. I don't like it. So I got in contact with one of a sales rep that was working with football at the time, and I was like, hey, can we come up with like a new logo, like something that's like kind of cool that would kind of maybe stick with something? And I came up, I wanted Mustang Power, like every other college in America, they had power after their logo or after or strength or something like that. So I was like, all right, Mustang Power, let's do that. And then I remember, my favorite wrestler growing up was Hulk Hogan, and I remember the Hulkamania, kind of the font or whatever. And so I was like, all right, let's try that. So I gave him kind of what I wanted. And lo and behold, this artist sent me something back, and so I did. So I put that on some shirts, and I didn't know it'd sell, but it sold pretty good. Some of the stuff. So, and so that kind of helped a little bit. I've done shaker bottles, every now and then, if I get some free ones or something like that from a company or whatever like that, I'll throw those out, old bands. So we get some, used bands that are kind of frayed, things like that. Trim them up. They're still good quality. They maybe had a couple of years under the belt, things like that. But sport coaches love them, and they want to use them for warm-ups. They want to use them for, kids want to take them home. They want to do curls on their own, or they want to do some pre-rehabilitative movements that we've been doing in the weight room, and they feel that it helps them and whatnot. So they take it home with them. They give me some money for, the used bands. So those types of things that we do. Fundraising, it's tricky because it's tough because it's one of those deals that if you're an only strength coach, it's a lot of time that you have to allocate to it. And I'm not saying that I'm not one to put time on something, but at the end of the day, if you've never done it and you have to allow stressful and you've never been in that situation, it's exhausting because you got to stay on top of it. You got to keep track of it and all that kind of stuff. But like I said, we did a lot of fundraising stuff at Mary, and I learned a lot from that place, and how he does things. And he didn't have a budget at the time, and he'd all of a sudden come up with, X amount of dollars, and we'd be able to get stuff. So I kind of took that definitely from there and kind of implemented it a little bit here. I probably slacking a little bit more so, and probably what I should be. I should probably be fundraising a little bit more, but like I said, we're doing the best we can, and let's try to hopefully improve a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk maybe a little bit of training. What's your guys's what's your training philosophy just with your athletes there?
I've kind of switched more to that principle-based type system. I liked what kind of Ron McKeefery talked about in his book, CEO Strength Coach, and kind of that whole system of principles-based and sticking to principles and I'm going to steal this again from like the whole, philosophies of like religion, all you're going to do is fight type of thing. And what's kind of funny is that, there's so many different ways to do things, and not everybody's going to agree. Even the sport coaches I work with here, sometimes they're not going to agree with what you want to do. So by sticking to certain principles, sometimes it almost feels better sometimes doing that, and I almost get more buy-in from that, and it's easier to explain to a sport coach, I should say, or even to admit to, an AD, and kind of wanting to build the program. So I would say, the biggest, our principles are, limiting the potential for a soft tissue injury and doing those types of things, whatever training philosophy that I guess you want to pull from to kind of fit that system, whether it be different flexibility exercises, different corrective movements, functional movement screens. I've used it seldomly here to kind of help with that, to kind of pre-screen type, screen freshmen or anything like that coming through. But just emphasizing recovery methods and really hammering those types of things. So I would say, that's one of our principles. I would say another principle would be, proven athletic performance, and that's pretty broad, but you can go down the list and start pulling from different methodologies in terms of training and utilizing, our Olympic lifts, our core-based movements, multi-joint movements is what we kind of stick to in terms of training. Athletic ground-based movements, and to make sure that, because I don't have a ton of machines in our weight room, so everything's loaded up with a barbell or a dumbbell and 2 feet on the ground. So we're gonna squat, we're gonna press, we're gonna row, and you're gonna do it with 2 feet on the floor, and that's how we're gonna move things, because that's, in my opinion, that's how it's done in sport. And so that's how we're gonna I guess improve our athletic performance from that standpoint, and then we get into our nutritional side of things, and that's always a touchy subject. I'm not a registered dietitian, nor do I want to be. But at the end of the day, it's just educating our kids and making sure that keeping it simple and making sure that it's almost kind of a life change, not just, all right, well, it's going to help you gain weight now, and then you're going to go back to your old habit after that type of thing. And then, teaching them what they should be taking, pre-workout, post-workout, pre-practice, after practice, before games, after games, those types of things. And I guess that would be probably another principle that I like to go by, is just teaching them that nutritional concept and just keeping it simple, and hopefully it's an everyday type process for them. And then last part, we go into, improving the mental and physical toughness. And I know that's a very cliche principle and probably term, but we're always stressing, maintaining a positive attitude. Those are two things. Your attitude and your effort, you can always control. And I'm always stressing that with our kids and making sure that they know that, if they have a bad attitude, and it keeps me in check too, because if I have a bad attitude, they're walking in with a bad attitude, that's not going to work very well. So I try to make sure that we're maintaining a good attitude, we're giving nonstop effort, we're always finishing, good life choices all the time, and then trying to manage our stressors, whether they're good stress and bad stress. And we just talk about it. We try to keep an open dialogue with some of that stuff, and try to abide by those principles. And sometimes I might utilize certain parts of those principles more so at certain times of the year, and then other times of the year, this type of principle might be a little bit more emphasis on it. But I would say those are probably the four main things that I try to stick to, and making sure that, this program continues to evolve. And if I stick to those types of principles, I don't get combobulated and trying to pull from all these different types of things all the time. And it just kind of keeps me grounded. It keeps me on track a little bit more, and it keeps it simple for me as well. So
yeah. And I think I love your thoughts on just the principles versus philosophy. And I think what that allows you to do, and you expanded on it a lot there, is just to be creative, and I just look back personally for me, how I was training my athletes 4 years ago when I took over at William Jewell to now is very different in a lot of ways, from a modality or philosophy standpoint, I guess. But
Yep.
the underlying principles of all of it is basically the same.
Yep.
So I love your thoughts on that, Coach. So
Mm-hmm.
what are
Absolutely.
what's maybe your vision for your department? Like where are you taking this thing maybe the next 5 years?
Man, and what's funny, when you get asked that question, you're just like, well, how the heck am I supposed to know? Because when I started out, when I was 25 years old, I was like, I didn't know where I was. I didn't even know I was going to still be here. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you just don't know. And so I think, but now, things change. I got a wife, I got a kid coming on the way.
Congrats.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Um, we'll see how I feel kind of when that time comes. When I'm not getting any sleep. I'm already cranky some days. We'll
Right.
see kind of how that kind of plays out. But I don't know. I really don't. I guess my thing would be to continue to try to grow our staff. Would be number one. I really think if you can have more bodies and maybe maybe an assistant or another assistant or two, sure would help. Not gonna lie. I'd like to be able to train most of our teams and be able to give them the help and care that they I think they deserve, you know what I mean, and be able to run our teams year round type of thing, and to be able to give the proper care that they want. Obviously that that comes with time and things like that, and money and all that kind of stuff. But that's if you're asking me kind of what my vision is for 5 years, that's kind of what I'd like to continue to grow our staff a little bit, and to hopefully help more of our kids out in our department, and go from more with that, and then myself, I'd like to hopefully reach out more to coaches. When you first start out at a place, you get kind of congested at just that place, and you forget about, keep bettering yourself some days, and reaching out and making sure that you stay on top of yourself and developing as a young coach, because I'm only 30 years old. So there's a lot of things I don't know, and I'm going to hopefully go into the grave someday not knowing something all the time, right? And
Right.
hopefully continue to evolve as a young coach, and just developing myself as a young coach, and hopefully developing, staff, and getting continuity with our kids too would be another thing. Just hopefully keeping a person here to help me out and to help out our kids the most, because I think if you can, like we talked about briefly, going over and keeping that continuity, I think is what makes this place so good, is that if you can have the same person, given the order or given that direction, it's a huge deal, because that's what they know, and they're going to go to battle, and everything else kind of balances itself out over time. So I think if we can keep continuity with things, and keep things rolling with that, and hopefully grow and develop our staff a little bit more to help more teams out, I think that'd be huge. That'd be huge for me in the next
So
5 years.
sorry, Coach, can you what is your staff situation right now? I forgot to ask you that question.
No, you're good. Right now I currently have me, and I have a restricted earnings type position, and then we have a football coach who helps us out on the side as well. So, he'll help me out and things like that, and with whatever we need. If we need an extra set of eyes, if we're testing and we need help with that, or him and I, especially the football assistant, him and I will attack the conditioning with football running, and so we collaborate on that, and we pick each other's brains. And he's been here longer than I have, so he's dealt with the head coach before me, and he knows what kind of works and what doesn't, and how to say things. And I can't speak enough about that type of situation, because I would say that when I first got here, that was huge for me. And I stress this to young coaches too. I'm like, if you get into a situation, say you're a head coach and you don't have any other avenue, go talk to the sport coaches. You'd be surprised at what you can kind of leverage with things by saying things a certain way, and getting things done. But like I said, I could go off topic on that too and talk about that whole situation. But it's been pretty remarkable in that regard. So I'm pretty grateful for that situation. But it's just basically us two. My restricted earnings position, it's grown. It started out at like holy cow, it didn't start out very much, I'll tell you that. And it was only a few years ago that this thing started out. And then it grew into a little bit more, and then it grew into a little bit more, and then it is what it is now. You know, I'm not gonna probably, I don't know if I should say the dollar amount, but it's not very great. So we'll just say that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the worst part about that is the turnover. It's so hard sometimes, especially with young coaches now. It's just they come out of these GAs or internships, and they want to take these low end. Some of them don't even want to take these low entry positions sometimes. It ticks me off. And I think that's where you're going to get the most experience sometimes. And then all of a sudden, you get in this loophole of kids always leaving after a semester or after a year. And so, like I said, the continuity sometimes it's harmful to the program a little bit because you can't keep that consistency with things. But that's kind of the situation we're in right now. And grateful for it. That's where I'm at right now, and we're just going to continue with it. So,
yeah, and I was actually talking to my staff a little bit about this earlier today. Is just being, we've all, I think, as an industry and just people in general, we all want to complain about how hard we have it, and I don't think any of us really have it that bad. And instead of seeing really, what are the positives about what can come of this. And like you said about your time at Mary, I mean, it was just you two, but that prepared you to be where you're at right now.
Absolutely.
To be able to play the long game, I think is something that a lot of people are missing. Yeah, that's obtained. I don't want to go down that road. I don't need to start that, but
no, I'm telling you, man, it could be a long podcast right now.
Yeah.
About all that. Trust me.
Coach, what are maybe some of your favorite professional development resources that you're digging into?
Obviously, books are huge. They're simple. You pick them up and you start reading them. You can go to the toilet the next morning and you can read one. That's pretty simple. You can do that, or on your downtime you can read one. So I like books. Books are huge for me. Articles, if I'm, in between groups or sessions like that, I'll try to maybe pull up an article or something like that and just read something, whether it's just a snippet of something, or even my assistant, man, he's always reading something, man. I feel bad sometimes. I'm not reading as much as he is. He's always reading. So I'm like, what are you reading? And I'm like looking over his shoulder, and then he'll send me in or something like that. And so it kind of forces me to, keep up a little bit more on that. So
that's good.
So I'm always picking up little articles, whether it's, journals online or something like that, or, Elite FTS does a fantastic job, and I get on there and, you pick up things from some of those power lifters, and then there's strength coaches on there too. So, and they kind of give their perspective on things. And so I try to pick up stuff like that. Simply Faster is a great resource as well. Those articles are lengthy, but they're very, very good in what they provide in terms of knowledge and education. So, podcasts, your podcast. I love your podcast because it's relatable. I try to stick to things that are relatable as much as possible, just because, I'm going to try to fit things that try to help my situation out as much as possible. Because, it's a small college strength and conditioning. It's prevalent. It needs to happen because there's not a lot of them out there, and it's, we're still a new profession, I would say. And with that being said, you gotta have to reach out to some of those other coaches that are kind of in the same shoes as you are, and be like, my situation, what I'm doing right now, I'm like, it's not working. What the heck are you doing, type of thing. So it's like, that's kind of what I'm kind of in the boat on there. I look at a lot of some of the other podcasts. Obviously the NSCA, they provide one, and Journal of Strength and Conditioning, those types of things. Videos, I mean, there's stuff out there. I'll look at YouTube and whatnot. There's some things, but more so with those, I try to pick up on, specific coaches, and if they provide like YouTube videos and links, stuff like that, I'll watch those and whatnot. Pat Ivy Performance, I think that's been a pretty good one, honestly. That's been kind of a relatively newer one that's kind of popped up, and I've enjoyed those. I really have. I've enjoyed some of those talks, and they've been really good. Brett Bartholomew, he does a great job as well, and in providing some of that stuff on conscious coaching and whatnot. yeah, I mean, there's a lot of those types of things that I try to dive into, and I try to read a book a month. Sometimes I'm successful, sometimes I'm not, and I just kind of go from there, and read as much as I can, and when I got time and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, that's perfect, Coach. And let's.
Yeah.
I really appreciate your time. Number one, this is
Not a problem.
obviously a really busy time for all of
Yep.
us, and for you to take a chunk out of your day to do this is
Yeah.
fantastic. So let's wrap this up. Let's got 4 quick questions, and then we'll get you on with the rest of your day. Sound good?
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
All right. What is your favorite office snack?
Office snack. I've been on an apple and protein bar kick lately.
There you
I
go.
know
That's
it might
good.
raise a red flag a little bit. Good though. Quick.
Yeah. Best piece of coaching advice you've ever been given?
No one will care as much as you do.
Yeah. Like that. That's good. What's you have 15 minutes to train. What are you doing?
Trap bar deads, some type of a press, buys and tries. That's it.
That's probably one of my favorite questions because we've all done that 15-minute workout. That's all. A lot of times, all you got.
And you
time
probably
for, so
got
that's
everything.
Exactly.
You heard everything. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Coach. Last one. Maybe a small school strength coach or name however many you want. You think does a fantastic job and deserves a shout out.
I don't know how many times I've even heard this, but my assistant, Coach Kiefer, he does he's been a tremendous help for me. He really has. He's been awesome. He continues to show a willingness to learn and grow as a young coach, and hopefully, he continues to just evolve into the young coach that he is and grows into, the best version of himself that he possibly can. So
yeah. Well, it sounds like he's got a hell of a mentor, so that's a good thing. So,
appreciate that.
Coach, again really appreciate your time, and you're doing just obviously great things there at Morningside. So, good luck the rest of the semester into the summer. Good luck with the baby on the way. Hope everything goes great. But just keep killing it, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. Thank you very much.